We're here at the 28th Annual Alzheimer's Regional Conference here in Seattle, Washington. Joining us today is Director of Programs and Services for the Alzheimer's Association, Johanne Mahar. Mayor, excuse me.
That's okay.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
You're welcome.
You're invited to talk about the topic of the basics of dementia. It sounds like a huge topic. Where do you start with that?
Well, it is a huge topic. One of the presentations that we did today and that I did was called The Basics of Alzheimer's. And generally what we do is when someone comes to us, one of the goals we have at the Alzheimer's Association is to really educate about the disease process. And a lot of people think that dementia is the disease. But in reality, there are a number of diseases that cause dementia-like symptoms. And so dementia is just a very broad term. And then under that, I think at this point there are about 90 to 100 distinctive diseases or processes that are causing dementia-like symptoms.
Well, would it be fair to say that is dementia a normal part of the aging process?
No, it's not.
Okay.
So again, dementia is caused by a disease.
Okay.
So just like you have the category of cancer, there are many types of cancer. And so dementia is this umbrella term that we use to describe symptoms of a disease process. And Alzheimer's disease is the most common type of dementia. So the statistics that we know now is that by the time someone reaches about 65 years old, you have about a 1 in 8 chance of developing Alzheimer's disease.
Wow.
By the time you're 85, about 50% of us will possibly have Alzheimer's disease.
Now, is it possible to have Alzheimer's disease and not have dementia symptoms?
Not that I'm aware of. Because what research is showing is that there's a possibility that people have the disease process coming on for anywhere from 10 to 20 years before the symptoms show up.
Wow.
But I've not heard of someone whose brain autopsy showed they have dementia that didn't have symptoms that people were noticing.
I see.
And there's stages. I mean, there's the early stages of all of the symptoms that people have, and it progresses through over a course of years. Varies a lot, but anywhere from 2 to 20 years people can live with this disease once the symptoms start.
I see.
So once most people get a diagnosis, they can still live with the disease for a good solid 10 to 20 years.
Wow.
And live well if the environment is right and the support that they need is there.
So are there certain things that make us more predisposed to the disease itself, or?
My understanding from research, well, there is a gene, there is a familial gene, very rare, but if it is something that your family has, the risk of getting dementia is very, very, very increased. It's one of the types of disease that will show up generally in people who are younger as well.
Okay.
So there's a very strong family history in this gene that's present. And then there is another gene that people have which does increase your risk of getting dementia, but not nearly as much as the familial gene. So I'm not sure of the exact statistic, but I've heard anywhere from about 3 to 8 to 10% increase if you have this other gene.
So you can kind of genetically see maybe a family that has heavily had or been dealing with Alzheimer's, dementia, maybe a process that's going on genetically in somebody?
Yeah, you can, yes. There's a definite increase in the type of genetic research that is showing who's predisposed to this. And then to add to your question, what can we do or what are people thinking about? I think we had a really good presentation with Dr. John Seisel this morning for the keynote presentation. And the latest research again is showing that kind of brain health is related to general health. And what's good for the heart is good for the brain. So it's not going to stop the disease process, but there's some research out there that diet, that exercise, nutrition, which is associated with diet, of course, and sleep can keep you healthier and maybe protect your brain for a little bit longer before you would develop the disease. There's no cure at this point, there's no prevention at this point, but there are things that you can do in your lifestyle that maybe, keep the disease from forming as early or,
So, as the director of programs, I guess that you're faced kind of daily with what, to do. What do you do with the people that are coming to you? What can you do for them? I know that you have a couple different programs that you're offering. One of the ones that I think you were talking about was the Zoo Walk program. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah. Our chapter has been offering programs to people who actually have a diagnosis of dementia for a long time, dating back to probably about 1993 or 4.
Wow.
But over time, we've had the creativity and the ability to try to branch out from standard educational groups to more social engagement, opportunities for advocacy, being a face and a spokesperson for us. And one of the things that we've done with our early stage programs is branched out a little bit from just a support group, which we do offer, or an educational program, to these social engagement programs. And so the Zoo Walk is something that we started last year, and it's a 10-week program, meets once a week at the zoo in Seattle, Washington. The Woodland Park Zoo, and we partner with the Parks Department and the zoo and the Greenwood Senior Center to develop this program, and it's completely run by volunteers. But a group of people with memory loss or with a dementia come and walk together, and if they like, they bring a friend or a care partner with them. They do a nice active walk and socialize as they're walking, and then at the end of the walk they get together and have coffee and maybe lunch and just continue the friendship and the social engagement that they so much look forward to.
This is following the whole idea of what's good for your heart is good for your brain. Right on.
And social engagement, keeping really engaged in what you like to do and what you have either excelled at or want to learn about. Another very good positive thing to do for yourself.
You had talked earlier a little bit when I was just discussing with you before we started rolling here about long-distance caregivers. What is that?
I think as we've all aged, it's not unusual to see that a lot of families are not living in the same community any longer. So I think by definition, long distance means anybody over about an hour away. But it's certainly not uncommon for us to be talking to a daughter or son, a cousin, a sister who lives in New Jersey or Texas, and the person with memory loss lives here, or vice versa. The concerned person lives here and the person with memory loss lives somewhere else. So long distance caregiving is becoming more common for people. We're not living close to each other any longer. So that brings its own challenges, trying to figure out what's going on from a distance, trying to decide over the phone if things have changed, not changed. How's mom doing? There's no set of eyes on the person often, unless a friend or someone else is calling you. So it presents its own set of challenges, like I said, and what we've done is developed some telephone support groups. So that's one thing about long-distance caregiving, but another thing that we've done as a chapter and across the country actually is the National Alzheimer's Association is we have a 24/7 helpline. So anyone can call this number day or night, get a live person answering the phone, and just discuss the issues, the concerns, the positives, the negatives, where do I find a doctor?
Yeah.
You know, where can I go to a support group, even though mom is living across the country? So,
Well, certainly it's a gigantic topic, and I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down
Certainly.
with us and to maybe clarify some of the issues. And I really appreciate your time.
well,
Thank
you're
you so
welcome.
much.
Thank you.